Okay, let's get into this deep dive. We're looking at something pretty fundamental today, something most of us do but maybe haven't really broken down: shopping online.
That's right. And our source material for this, it comes from parts of a lesson, almost like a chat you'd have trying to get the hang of buying things over the internet.
Exactly. It touches on the basic ideas, some key words, and yeah, some of the worries people often have. So our goal here is to take these bits and pieces, these ideas and terms from the sources
Uh-huh.
and kind of assemble them into a clear picture for you. We'll cover the convenience, sure, but also what to watch out for and the language that helps you get around.
Think of it like getting the essential map, maybe, from these sources anyway, to understand this whole digital shopping world.
Right. So let's start right at the beginning. The lesson mentions the basic action. What does it actually mean simply to go online?
Well, the sources put it really simply. To go online just means you're using the internet. And then, taking it one step further, to shop for something online, that just means buying stuff using the internet. That's the main activity, right?
Yeah. And often before you actually buy, you're just
Yeah.
looking around. The source material brings up another action: to browse.
Ah, browsing. Yeah, that's key. Whether you're online or, in a real store, it's just looking at things you're not necessarily planning to buy right that second.
So you can browse in a shop, just wandering.
Exactly. Or you can browse online, just scrolling through pages of items on a website. And the sources really point out how much easier it is to browse tons of options online compared to, physically hoofing it to 10 different stores.
That ease definitely points towards specific online places.
Mm.
The lesson we're drawing from highlights one big one: eBay.
Yes, eBay. It's described basically as a website, like a huge online store. A lot of people think used stuff, and there's definitely that. But you can find new things, too. It's a place where anyone can be a buyer or a seller.
Right, the sources give that example, like selling an old TV you don't need anymore, putting pictures up online.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's not just small stuff for electronics.
Well?
No, the sources specifically mention people selling cars on eBay, even, luxury cars. And they actually compare it to another big platform, Taobao, which is apparently used a lot in China.
Interesting. Okay, but here's where the potential downsides creep in. A big concern raised in the source dialogue is,
Right.
how do you stop yourself from getting ripped off?
Ah, yes. Ripped off. The sources define this pretty clearly. It's basically someone stealing your money or just plain cheating you.
Like overcharging.
Exactly. They give a really stark example.
Yeah.
Imagine shoes that are worth maybe $50, but someone sells them to you for $200. That's getting ripped off.
Oof. Yeah, okay. And when you can't see the seller face to face or touch the item, that risk makes something else really important, doesn't it? The sources talk about trustworthiness.
Absolutely. Trust is everything online. And the way the lesson says platforms build this trust is through what they call a point system, or sometimes you hear star system.
Right, right. How does that work, according to the sources?
Well, it's basically how these websites rate their users, especially the sellers. You get points or stars based on, past sales and what buyers say about you.
So more points is better.
Generally, yeah. More points usually means they're seen as more trustworthy, more dependable. Fewer points might mean there have been issues. Maybe negative comments if a seller messed up suggest they might be less reliable.
Okay, so trustworthy just boils down to being reliable, dependable, someone you can count on not to, lie or cheat. And the sources say this applies to people and companies online.
Exactly right. It's a mechanism, really, trying to bring some accountability into that online space where you don't have the usual cues.
Okay, so moving from finding stuff to actually paying for it. Payment methods and safety. That's obviously a big one.
Yeah, definitely. The dialogue in the sources mentions the usual ways, credit card, debit card, but it also brings up PayPal as another option.
And how do they describe PayPal?
They specifically flag it as being really safe and fast. That's the quote from the source.
Safe and fast. But safety online always makes you think about hacking.
Right. And the sources define that too. To hack is stealing information online, and a hacker is the person who does it. It's actually interesting. The lesson includes a bit of personal experience here.
Oh, yeah.
One speaker says something like, they've never had any problems with someone hacking my information or anything.
Huh. Okay, so that's like a real-world data point from the source, balancing the fear a bit.
Yeah, it puts the potential risk alongside a lived experience where it hasn't been an issue, at least for that person in the source material.
Now, one of the huge advantages of shopping online, which the sources really seem to stress, is just the incredible variety of things you can find.
Oh, absolutely. The sources nail this with a simple line. You can find anything. And they give these great little examples like needing a specific pillow or even, get this, a sweater for your dog.
A dog sweater.
Right. And the point is, think about finding those things offline. You might have to go to a department store for the pillow, maybe a pet store for the sweater, perhaps a different place entirely for something else. It could mean multiple trips.
Whereas online,
It's all kind of consolidated. The sources really emphasize the comfort, the convenience, being at home, maybe still in your pajamas, they say, and having this enormous shop right there. It's all in one place.
yeah, that convenience factor seems huge.
Definitely. The sources list out the benefits pretty clearly. Not having to leave your house, not needing to browse loads of different physical stores. Searching is super quick and easy. They even mention it's good for finding small, specific things like decorative candles.
And less hassle, too.
Yeah, they bring that up.
Yeah.
Avoiding things like having to haggle or negotiate prices. And, sometimes it is actually cheaper online.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the picture the sources are painting here. The big pluses are convenience, speed, comfort, huge selection, maybe better prices, no need to haggle.
Right.
And the main worries, the potential downsides raised, are getting ripped off or having your info hacked. Although the sources also talk about things like the point systems and share that personal experience, suggesting maybe hacking isn't always a constant threat.
That really sums up the trade-off described in the material, yeah. Massive convenience versus these potential issues around trust and security and the ways platforms try to handle those risks.
The sources also give a little insight into why people make the switch, like their personal reasons.
They do. There's one person in the material who specifically mentions using Amazon for books. Another talks about using Taobao, that Chinese platform, quite a lot.
And why do they prefer it?
Their reason, according to the source, is pretty practical. They know what they want, they don't enjoy going to lots of stores, and they definitely don't like haggling. So online just suits them better.
It sounds like once people really get into this way of shopping, it's a big shift. There's a really strong phrase used in the sources to capture that. Once you step into this world, there is no turning back.
Ooh, yeah, that line from the source material is pretty powerful, isn't it? There is no turning back. It means what it sounds like. You can't really go back to the old way. It's like a final decision, a path you're now on.
So the sources are suggesting that once you really embrace online shopping, with all its conveniences.
It's kind of hard to imagine going back only to traditional shops. It changes your habits, your expectations.
Okay, so pulling all this together from our source material, what's the big takeaway message?
Well, I think it's understanding that shopping online is more than just, clicking buy. It involves knowing these basic terms like going online and browsing, recognizing the platforms like eBay, appreciating how trust is built, like with those point systems, being aware of payment safety and the hacking concerns, and just grasping the sheer scale of what's available.
It's like a whole different world almost.
It kind of is, with its own sort of language, its own pros and cons. And yeah, the sources definitely suggest it's a bit of a one-way street once you're really comfortable in it.
And hopefully, this deep dive, looking closely at the sources, has given you, our listener, a better handle on those essentials, the key language, the main ideas behind buying things online.
Yeah, it's about digging a bit deeper than just the surface level, understanding the mechanics and the common experiences that the source material describes.
So thinking about that really potent phrase from the sources, once you step into this world, there is no turning back, makes me wonder, here's a thought for you to take away. What other everyday activity, maybe in your own life, feels like it has no turning back once you fully embrace it? Similar to how online shopping is described in these sources.
No, that's an interesting question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about as you navigate your own mix of the digital and the physical world.